Welcome to Unbound, the podcast with Beth Curry, author, storyteller, and survivor. This is where books meet real life, where Beth reads chapters from her work and breaks free from the traditional audiobook format, diving deeper into the personal experiences, lessons, and liberation behind every page. Nothing is off limits. Let's get unbound.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Unbound. I'm Beth Curry. Before we start today's episode, I need to tell you about the structure of the book. So the first 9 chapters that you've heard were part 1, titled The Stories We Sought. Those were the chapters about capturing Mom's memories, preserving her past before it disappeared completely. Today's chapter marks a transition. So it's called A Pause in the Journey. It's kind of like the part 2, of the book, because I had to step out of the narrative to share what's happening in real time as I was writing, because Mom was declining more rapidly. And the book that I planned to write was changing while I wrote it. So after this chapter, we move on to part 2, called The Journey We Found. In the book, it translates better just visually than it does on a podcast. But I just wanted to explain that shift from seeking stories to documenting the journey itself. That's what this chapter is about. This one's, crappy. It's raw. It's a little bit more vulnerable than anything I've shared so far. It's me, exhausted and anxious and uncertain, just trying to figure out how to keep going. At this point, I think I was debating whether or not I was just going to throw this project in the heap and give up. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to keep going for my mom. So this is chapter 10 in the book, called A Pause in the Journey. I need to take a moment here, step out of these memories, and share something with you, the reader. As I write these chapters, time continues moving forward, and Mom continues changing. I'm just a few months into this project, and already I may have to change directions from what I originally intended. The thought breaks my heart. Mom is declining more rapidly this year. They keep adjusting her medications, and the last 3 visits with her have been particularly difficult. The last 2 were hard to get through: confused conversations, vacant stares, moments where I wasn't sure she knew who I was. Today, I thought perhaps a change of scenery might help. I took her back to Burlington, to the cemetery where she hasn't been since Dad's funeral, hoping it might trigger some memories or help make something stick. We drove past her old house and the 2 churches where she spent most of her career and life working. Instead of bringing clarity, this trip left me more drained than I've ever felt. It's never been 3 weeks in a row of bad visits before. The pattern is new and terrifying. I find myself needing a reprieve, a break from the emotional toll. But then the thoughts come. What if I take a break and miss a Monday, and that's the day she has a good day? What if she only has one more lucid day left in her forever? What if I'm not there for it? These what-ifs keep me up at night. They feed my overthinking, they leave me struggling under their weight, and I face them largely alone. I don't have many people who are going through this alongside me. Most others aren't even visiting her. I understand why. It's incredibly hard to witness this decline, to sit with someone who might not recognize you, to feel that particular heartbreak again and again. But I can't help wishing for a wider support system, someone who gets it, someone who shares this burden, someone who understands what it's like to watch someone vanish by degrees. I started this book to preserve Mom's stories before they disappeared. Now I'm wondering if I need to shift focus, perhaps to document this present reality, this gradual farewell with all its pain and unexpected moments of grace. Perhaps the story that needs telling now is about how we learn to love someone through their unraveling, how we find meaning even as memories fade. I don't know what the coming months will bring. I don't know how many more stories Mom and I will share or how many more moments of clarity we'll have together. But I'll keep showing up on Mondays, keep sitting with her through whatever version of reality she's experiencing that day, keep loving her as she is now, even as I continue to grieve who she was. This is the hardest writing I've ever done, not because the words won't come, but because the story keeps changing while I'm trying to tell it. Anxiety has been my shadow companion since childhood. Always there, but usually kept at a manageable distance. For years, I've successfully navigated its presence through carefully cultivated routines. Morning runs that clear my head, meditation practices that ground me, journaling that helps untangle my thoughts. These weren't just lifestyle choices, they were armor against the anxiety that could otherwise consume me. But this journey with Mom has brought a different kind of anxiety, one that doesn't respond to my usual defenses. It seeps through the cracks of my carefully constructed walls, finding me even in moments that should be peaceful. My sleep has become fragmented, punctuated by middle-of-the-night worries about what condition I'll find her in the next visit. The meditation practices that once centered me now feel insufficient against the weight of anticipatory grief. Even my walks, once reliable sources of clarity, are now filled with looping thoughts about medication changes, facility decisions, and the countless what-ifs that haunt caregivers. And socially, things are getting worse. Being in public, in packed crowds or tight spaces seems to cause my body to shut down, which is rather embarrassing and draining. I find myself holding my breath or forgetting to breathe. My breaths are no longer diaphragmatic unless I'm breathing with intention. There's a particular flavor to this anxiety. It's not just worry, but a pervasive sense of helplessness. No amount of planning, no perfect routine, no carefully chosen words can stop what's happening to Mom. This lack of control strikes at the heart of how I've always managed my anxiety. I've always believed that with enough effort, enough discipline, enough planning, I could handle whatever came my way. But dementia follows no plan. It respects no effort. It cannot be reasoned with or outmaneuvered. The strategies that served me for decades feel less effective now. I find myself canceling plans with friends, hesitating before answering phone calls, withdrawing from activities that once brought joy. The mental bandwidth required to process each visit with Mom leaves little room for other emotional demands. Even simple decisions can feel overwhelming after spending hours navigating the complex emotional terrain of Willow Grove. My husband notices. My son notices. I catch the concerned glances they exchange when they think I'm not looking. They're watching me try to carry a weight that grows heavier each week, seeing the toll it takes even when I try to hide it. I know what a therapist would say, that I need to adjust my expectations, that I need new tools for this new challenge, that I need to allow myself the same grace I'd extend to others, and intellectually I understand this. But emotionally, I'm still learning how to navigate this unfamiliar landscape where my usual maps no longer apply. For now, I'm trying to find new practices that meet this moment. Smaller, more frequent moments of respite rather than larger escapes. 5 minutes of deliberate breathing before entering Willow Grove. A moment of gratitude for each small connection with Mom, however brief. Permission to feel the full weight of this journey without immediately trying to fix or solve it. This isn't the anxiety I've known before. It's something deeper, something woven into the fabric of watching someone you love gradually slip away. Perhaps it isn't meant to be conquered. Perhaps it's simply part of loving someone through their decline, part of the price we pay for the deep connection. But even acknowledging this doesn't make the sleepless nights easier, doesn't calm the racing thoughts, doesn't ease the tightness in my chest when Monday approaches. It doesn't answer the question that haunts me most. If I'm struggling this much now, how will I handle what comes next? The realization is slowly dawning on me that this book, like Mom's condition, like grief itself, cannot be neatly planned or outlined. When I began, I had a vision, capturing Mom's memories, before they faded completely, preserving her stories as she told them to me. I imagined a clear path from beginning to end, a structured journey through her past. But dementia doesn't follow outlines. It doesn't respect chapter breaks or narrative arcs. It changes the story while you're still writing it. So I find myself at a crossroads. I could try to force this project to follow my original vision, to stick rigidly to the plan I created in those early hopeful days when Mom's good moments outnumbered her confused ones. Or I could do something that feels both scarier and more honest. I could let this book evolve alongside Mom's condition. Let it reflect the reality of loving someone through their decline, rather than just the stories they can still tell. I have decided on the latter. What began as the stories we sought must now become the journey we found, not abandoning what came before, but allowing what comes next to take its own shape. I don't know what the coming months or chapters will bring. I don't know if Mom will have more lucid days where we can continue our conversations about Big Trout Lake or Setil, or if those moments are largely behind us now. I don't know how quickly changes will come or what form they'll take. But I know that documenting this journey, exactly as it unfolds, with all its unexpected turns and painful truths, matters. Because this is the reality of dementia for millions of families. This unpredictable path, this constant adaptation, this learning to find meaning even when the narrative breaks down. This is the longest goodbye, stretched out over years, forcing us to continually adjust our expectations and find new ways to connect. I can't pretend to know where the story ends, but I can promise to tell it honestly, to capture both the heartbreak and the unexpected moments of grace, to show what it really means to love someone through their unraveling, to document not just the fading of memory, but the finding of new ways to be present when old connections no longer hold. So I turn the page. Part 1, the stories we sought, remains intact, a record of the book I thought I was writing. But now begins Part 2, the journey we found, the book that found me instead, the reality that emerged when my carefully laid plans met the unpredictable nature of this disease. This isn't the book I set out to write, but perhaps it's the book that needs to be written, not just for Mom, not just for me, but for anyone facing the long, uncertain road of loving someone through their decline, of saying goodbye in 1,000 small ways while still finding reasons to show up each Monday ready to meet them wherever they are. Failure isn't just an event. It's a persistent whisper that follows us through life's corridors. It's that nasty nag that reminds us of every misstep, every unmet expectation, every dream deferred. But what makes failure truly insidious isn't the falling short. It's how it convinces us that our worth is measured by our accomplishments rather than our resilience. The greatest triumph isn't in never hearing that nagging voice, but in continuing forward despite its constant commentary, understanding that our story is defined not by our failures, but by our determination to keep writing new chapters. So I debated whether to include this chapter in the podcast. It's so raw and uncertain, and it doesn't have the polish or distance of the other chapters. And, I'm not looking back with wisdom gained. I'm kind of right in the middle of the mess, if that makes sense. But I think that's exactly what it needs to be here. This is what dementia caregiving or care partnering actually looks like. It's not neat and tidy with a cute, pretty little bow. It's not predictable. You don't get to plan at all how the story goes. You don't get to plan anything at all, actually. Nothing. I wrote this chapter on a particularly bad day, after those 3 shitty visits in a row, and I needed to pause and I needed to acknowledge the book I thought I was writing wasn't the book that was actually emerging. And I don't know, I don't think it's such a bad thing, what it became. I mean, I know that it's not. I've won awards and I have had so much good feedback and, people who have just thanked me left, right, up, down for being so real and so honest. So I know I went in the right direction and I'm really, really glad I didn't give up. What I wrote about anxiety, like how my usual coping mechanisms stopped working, that's still true. The strategies that, served me for so long feel inadequate now. Now, compared to when I wrote the chapter and now, I am doing considerably better. And as I read more chapters, you'll kind of see the evolution of that and why I'm doing much better now. But what helped me back in the day, like running and meditating and writing and all that, they helped even when I wrote that chapter and I was still kind of struggling, but they still weren't enough. There's this helplessness when you're watching someone decline, when there's the jack shit you can do to stop it, all my planning, all my effort, all my everything, my very carefully put together routines, none of it matters. Because this stupid ass disease follows its own timeline. And, the social anxiety getting worse back when I wrote that chapter, the crowds, the tight spaces, forgetting to breathe, that was hard to admit because I'm someone who's kind of always been able to push through. And suddenly I'm canceling plans and bailing on people and avoiding situations and kind of pulling back from the things that used to make me happy. And my family noticing that, I hated that they had to witness that, but the people who did notice it and say stuff, it really meant a lot because it showed me that they were kind of looking out for me too and that I wasn't completely alone. So when I started writing, I had this clear vision, kind of got messed up by the reality of this disease and, I decided to just go ahead and pivot, with the book. And I don't regret it at all. So I don't have questions today from anybody. Would love it if you are part of the Facebook group. Either me or one of the other moderators, Nate's one of them. When we post like the episode notes and stuff, when a new episode comes out, please comment. Like if you listen to it or if you have questions from previous ones or anything like that, please comment because that, gives me something else to talk about that might be helpful for people as well. I do get emails from a lot of people. I get more participation in email than I do in the group, but I really would like to see some participation in the group. So if you want, please do. Even if you're just mention that you listen to the episode, I appreciate all the feedback that I get because it's kind of what keeps me going. Also, next episode I'll be moving into part 2. The chapters that follow will be different. It will be less about Mom's past and kind of more about her present, our present. It's harder territory. It's going to be a little more uncertain, but it's brutally honest. So yeah, if you're in this mess too, if you're kind of watching dementia change your relationship with someone in real time, struggling to adapt when your plans fall apart, I just want you to know I see you. This part, this next part of this book, it's for us. So questions, comments, join the Facebook group. You can email me if you want to support the show, blah, 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 blah. It's all in the show notes. Thanks again for being here. I really appreciate you. And I will see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to Unbound with Beth Curry. Join the conversation in the Facebook group or visit author.bethcurry.com. Want to support the show? Head to ko-fi.com/unbound podcast. Until next time, stay unbound.